queries for today, and this first query that we have is coming in from Madhava Group from Kerala. We missed out a query yesterday. Apologies for that, Madhava. This one is for you, Kunal. She's holding ICICI Pru at the levels of around 683 rupees per share. Wants to know whether she should continue to hold on to it for the short term, as well as what's the outlook on the stock.
See, short-term wise, it's possible that the stock can get into a further correction mode. It's still trading below its 200-day moving average. The stock in the last 6 months has gone into a drag kind of a correction. It's not a sharp correction which ICICI Pru has seen in the last 6 months. From 700 odd levels, the stock has gradually and slowly gone below the 600 mark. Now I think trading at 570, 565 for itself. So I think purely in that sense, it's a stock which may continue to drag for a couple of months more. Then in terms of risk reward, when you are seeing a stock which has already corrected more than 20%, approximately 20% from its previous major swing highs, that typically is a good opportunity to try and average out your holdings. So I think in that sense, you can look to average it out further. But as I said, be ready for a further correction on the downside. And if possible, try and take advantage of the further correction, maybe closer to 520. If the stock corrects to that point, I think should be a further averaging opportunity for ICICI Pro.
Right, Kunal, and the next one, Saurabh, is for you. We have Manjunath who's asking on Axis Bank. Now, they're holding 50 shares which were purchased at 455 rupees per share, and they're holding it since July 2020. So now they're asking whether they could add some more, or should they, for 1 year term point of view, or should they switch to ICICI Bank or SBI Bank? Is that better?
I think it is the most conservative bank, and if you look at the growth pattern of the Axis Bank, they are not really outperforming the industry averages, whereas ICICI Bank looks more on the growth territory. So I would rather advise the Axis Bank is good on the valuation from the valuation perspective, but I would still advise book profit from the Axis Bank and get the money shifted towards ICICI Bank, because the growth, the 17% kind of growth is beyond average, and the net interest margins are also improving. The balance sheet is quite pristine. Provisions have been taken care of. I think there is a good chance that you will make good amount of money if you shift from Axis Bank to ICICI Bank.
All right, this next query that we've got is from Ravi Kumar. Wants to know whether it's right time to buy TTK Prestige. What's your take on this one, Kunal? Sharp volatility in that counter yesterday. Also, we saw a sharp up move. To this morning itself, we saw TTK Prestige actually surge in trade, and then it actually went into the negative territory. What should Ravi Kumar do? Does it make sense to buy TTK Prestige at this point in time?
Well, not to hurry. I think wait for a correction, sizable correction closer to 50-day moving average. If the stock happens to come to those levels, then it makes sense to buy the stock. I don't fancy stocks which head towards a breakout in the market which is struggling to try and hold up. So typically those are stocks, and also look at it in this way, that the indicators for TTK Prestige on the daily as well as on the hourly charts are extremely overbought. So RSI levels of 75, 85 plus for the stock on the daily time frame, these are unsustainable points in terms of indicators. This results into cool off in terms of prices, or the stocks may get into a time-wise correction. Whichever way, I think you should wait for a good amount of correction to come by into these names for you to chip in or enter into the stock.
Kaustubh is asking, whether it's good time to actually enter Divi's Lab at the current market price. Saurabh, this one is for you.
I would rather recommend, if you want to invest money in the pharmaceutical sector, I would rather recommend to invest in the Sun Pharma, which has shown good amount of growth. There was a less amount of pressures on the margins. The visibility on the revenue side is also good. And another stock I would recommend is Gland Pharmaceutical. So rather putting money in the Divi's Lab, I would rather recommend Sun Pharma and Gland in the pharmaceutical sector.
All right, this one is for you, Kunal, and this one is from Padma. She's bought 200 shares of Himatsingka Seide at 280 rupees per share, and she's saying that the stock is underperforming. So she wants to know whether it would be a wise option to switch to Apollo Tires or Welspun Industries, Welspun India, I believe, in that case, or should she just stay put with a holding in Himatsingka Seide?
See, I think both the charts, when I look at it, of course, even though these stocks have been completely different, but Himatsingka Seide and, for example, Apollo Tires, both these stocks are looking very, very similar on chart patterns. Both these stocks have come back closer to their support territories. Himatsingka, for example, has come closer to its 200 moving average. I think 3 or 4 days back, it was just marginally below its 200 moving average, and from there, it's bounced back. So I would suggest that if you're looking to churn, then I believe sticking to this stock could actually turn out to be a better play, because the last 12 months and 14 months of the rally for Himatsingka was very strong enough. And if you can just try and absorb this kind of corrective phase, I believe over the medium to long term, the stock would find its feet yet again and break out on the upside. So have patience and look out for buying the stock closer to 200, 205 levels. That should be the 200 moving average for Himatsingka Seide as an averaging opportunity.
Saurabh, the next one is for you. We have a query coming in on Mirza International. We have seen the stock price already move. Now, Sunita is asking that she's holding Mirza International at 80 rupees per share. What is the long-term view on this? If you could give us some insights on that.
I think from the long-term perspective, the stock has always been underperformer, and there is a lot of volatility on the margins and the profitability side. I mean, the stock is certainly not rewarding. If you see the last 4 or 5 years, there have always been the talks that the companies would do good, and they are coming out with the newer products, newer editions, but nothing has happened so far. So I would rather suggest avoid on the Mirza International.
Okay, Saurabh, unfortunately, I have a lot of technical questions today. So, let me take this one to Kunal then. Kunal, this one is coming in from Ramki saying that bought JSW Steel at the price of 119 rupees per share. That particular counter has soared from that levels. So, he wants to know whether he should book profits, and if yes, should go ahead and book profits, then what should he do with that money in the longer term? Which particular counter should he actually go ahead and put this money into?
I think he's sitting on a fantastic amount of profit on JSW Steel. More importantly, I think he's bought a large cap quality stock. So JSW Steel, not just in this last 18 months, 19 months of cycle in the markets, but you look at it historically in the last 5 to 10 years as well, it's been one of the dominant players in the entire metal pack. So I think when you're sitting with a phenomenal gain on a large cap stock, if you're not in any kind of a rush towards liquidating or in need of money, I would definitely suggest that you should continue to hold on.
I'm actually going to come back to you. I have a technical query coming in from Sagar, and he's asking about HUL. Now, they have shorted 60 lots in futures at 2625 levels. Now, what should he do? Should he book profits, or is there a downside left? Especially important junction level is at 2300. So, what should they be doing?
See, I think it's going to be a bit tricky because HUL is now coming closer to its support levels. It's the third time, I think, in the last 2 months that the stock, 1 month, that the stock is trying to test its key support point 2300. Now, whether the stock breaks below the 2300 mark or whether it bounces back, I think it's very difficult to anticipate at current juncture. I would suggest that maybe have a trailing stop loss. I think 2380 on future spaces could actually be a good trailing stop loss for your short positions on HUL.
All right. This one, I'll come to you, Saurabh. Pharma sector, this one, our viewer wants to actually invest in pharma sector, has some funds with her. Wants to know which stocks can you buy in the pharma space and the pharma likes. Should it be Lupin, Copran, Leica or Aurobindo Pharma? Does it make sense to buy these counters at current price or on correction for the longer term?
I think I would rather recommend Pharmaceutical. If you look at their portfolio, therapeutic portfolio, it's doing wonderfully good. There is no pressure on the margins. The company is quite upbeat on the growth path going forward. So I would rather recommend Sun Pharmaceutical. Another company that I would recommend is the Clan Pharma. Their business is showing good growth in the US, Europe, and now they are growing their business in the rest of world. They have put up more manufacturing lines to cater to the rest of the world, and I think these two companies can do well, especially if there is a rise in the case of infection. I think pharmaceutical sector would come, the play would come to the fore, and these two stocks should do well in going forward.
I'm going to come back to you. We have someone asking, KJ Singh actually asking for a long-term view on Sera. Now they bought it at 4,500 rupees. What should they be doing and how is the holding period looking like for them?
You're asking me?
Yes, Saurabh, asking you.
Yeah, I mean the growth territory looks quite optimistic, especially given the boost we are seeing in the real estate sector. So I think from the growth perspective, next 1-2 years would be good for the Sera sanitary ware. But at the same time, I'm not that comfortable with the valuation. But still, if you have a long-term perspective, I think you can stick to it. I mean, I would rather recommend a hold on to it.
Okay, this one is for you, Kunal, and this one is coming from Sunny, and he's saying that 2 weeks ago that you had suggested to hold Tata Communications till it reached the level about 1500 to 1700 target in a year. He's saying that the stock has actually reached 1500 today, so he wants to know what should he do, what sort of a stop loss should he keep in mind for Tata Communications going ahead, and also he would want to know what sort of a next target should he look at for this counter.
Well, I think you should try and look to book profits over here rather than having a trailing stop loss, because you're sitting on some good gains and good profits on Tata Communication. The stock has come back towards its previous major high. Markets are getting into a bit of a choppy or a volatile zone. So I think good time to try and book profits, maybe 50% or 70% of your profits. That's the call which I think you'll have to take. But then I think booking profits over here could actually be a prudent decision, because if there is any correction which comes by for Tata Communication, I think the stock can come closer to 1300, 1340 levels again. So I think rather than waiting for deep trailing stop losses in these kind of names, it's prudent enough to try and book your profits, majority of your profits at current levels.
Okay, and now it's time for the rapid fire round. So, let's quickly start. Saurabh, I'm going to start with you. We have Ajay who's asking that they purchased Sera sanitary ware actually again. So, should they hold or sell? And this is for a 3-month view. They bought it at 4,960 rupees per share.
I think he can hold Sera sanitary.
Okay, this one is from Sudha and she's a senior citizen from Kerala. Kunal, this one is for you. She's bought HDFC Bank at around 1530 rupees per share. Wants to know whether she should shift to ICICI Bank and what would be the best price that she should look to exit HDFC Bank if she should switch to ICICI Bank, that is.
Yeah, I think it could make good sense to hold on to HDFC Bank, and if you have additional capital, only then look to add ICICI Bank and such other names in your portfolio. Stick to HDFC Bank as of now.
Okay, Saurabh, Mr. Bhatia is asking on Sun Pharma. You did talk about it, but should they hold or switch to another pharma stock?
I think it is a good hold from long-term perspective.
All right, Kunal, this one is for you. Aarthi has bought IEX and Web of Global, wants to buy IEX and Web of Global. Does it make sense to do that so now? Because she's already holding Angel Broking, so wants to know whether she should sell that and look at these counters.
Well, yeah, I think makes sense to look at IEX now rather than looking at Web of Global. I think it makes good sense to chip into IEX. It's a phenomenal chart. The stock has shown strength every now and then, so I believe sticking to IEX could actually be a good strategy.
Saurabh, Ramaswamy is asking about DCB. They bought it at 117 levels. Is it time for average for them, or should they be just holding right now?
I think better to switch money from DCB to ICICI or SBI.
All right, and with that we come to the end of the rapid fire as well as the query segment. Thank you so much, Kunal, as well as Saurabh, for joining us on the show, talking about the auto ancillary space. telling the viewers what exactly is happening in that particular segment, as well as resolving queries. And for all the viewers who've tuned in and who've not got their answers today, please be patient with us. We will definitely try and take it tomorrow. 11:20 a.m. is when we will start with the queries segment. On that note, we'll slip into a break on this edition of Buy Now, Sell Now. But stay tuned, more on the other side, so don't go anywhere.